ever find yourself scratching your head wondering, how the heck do I improve the performance of my team? Perhaps you've tried all performance management, you've trained everyone, but they're still just not delivering. Or maybe you've got a boss who says, well, you've just got to work smarter, not harder. Hi, I'm Mark Johnson, founder of Intelligent Performance, here with this week's team tip. Let's have a think about an elite athlete or an elite team. Do you think they ever walk out onto the court or the ground, the pitch, dive into the pool and just hope for the best? No, of course not. They've got their strategy, they know the rules, they know their body and how it works, and in fact they know about how a slight change in a grip or a stance or a position can improve performance. Now, having a coach also helps, but they know how their body works and they have an idea of the sports, mechanics and science, I guess, if you like, that goes along with that. So if you want your team to be at the top of their game, you need to have an understanding of the science and the art of team effectiveness. So today I'm going to be taking you through, I'm going to get a bit theoretical on you. I've got some team framework to show you because I want to support you in understanding more about where do the real problems lie. So there might be some symptoms of an ineffective team that you're experiencing. But what are the causes and how do you get to the bottom of that? That's where the secret lies. That's where you make real significant improvements to team effectiveness. So in a moment, we're going to go to a PowerPoint, we're going to go through some theory, and then we'll come back and talk about so what? How do we apply that in the workplace? I'll now take you through 4 frameworks for team effectiveness, and I'm going to do that really quickly, so feel free to stop the video at any time so you can explore the slides in a bit more detail. First one we're looking at is Tuckman's team development process, and some of you may have heard of that. It's where teams go through certain phases as they grow and develop through forming, storming, norming, performing and adjourning. So over time performance increases until you get to the adjourning phase, which is when teams break up. There are certain behaviours that team members exhibit throughout those phases, and it's really important for you to understand what's going on in your team at any particular time, so you might be able to identify what phase they're in. So the important points here to note is which phase is your team in, and with new team members, just be mindful that the team may slip back into other phases as that new team member settles in, and are you using an appropriate leadership style, and that will change as you move through different phases. The next model is Gustafson's organizational systems model, and when you understand systems theory in simple terms, you have some inputs, you do something with them called transformation to produce an output. So in a work sense, your team will produce outcomes for clients and stakeholders. So you need to understand, do you know what your stakeholders and clients want, and are you meeting their expectations? Now in producing those outcomes, you will be using some inputs. So there are external factors. It might be data you use or information or raw materials. So how are those externalities impacting performance? And the important thing, or the next important thing here, is the transformation process. And there's 2 parts to this. One is, or 2 layers. One is, what knowledge does your team need and what culture do you need to create so you can produce the required outcomes? And then from a strategic perspective, do you have a mission and guiding principles, and do you understand what makes your team valuable and unique, and how are you measuring performance? So underlying and supporting all of that, there are the team processes: structure, decision-making processes, capability, reward and recognition, and the team renewal and the systems that you use. So what elements of those needs attention or improvement? Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team looks at the behaviours teams exhibit when things aren't going so well, and he looks at a number of different layers. These layers I've got descriptors there for you to have a read through, but you'll see the foundation layer there is the absence of trust. So when things are not going so well, that foundation of trust can be eroded. Now when you look at each of those layers, as I said, there are behaviours that go along with each of those. The thing to keep in mind though is that if you see dysfunction in your team, the problem generally lies at lower levels. So for example, if there is a lack of commitment, there are some problems probably there in the fear of conflict and the trust levels. Right? So that's where you might need to be putting your attention so people are more prepared to commit. Or if there's inattention to results, there's probably something there about accountability and commitment, conflict or trust. So keep that in mind when you're looking at behaviours. The next model, high energy teams model from Majurison and McCann, is probably my favourite. I use it a lot in my team development workshops. It all starts with understanding who we are, our values, our differences, our work preferences and so on. We move on to where are we now? So what are our strengths, our weaknesses, what's the team balance, etc. Where are we going? So the future, our mission, our vision, our whole purpose for being, what's it all about? What are we're here to achieve? How will we get there is the planning side. So what are our objectives, our action plans to achieve our mission and vision? In doing so, what's expected of us in terms of our responsibilities, our job descriptions, but also our the unspoken ones, our ground rules, our expectations of each other. What support do we need? That comes in the form of both mentoring and coaching, but also training and development and systems, tools and equipment. What do we need to get the job done? In carrying out that job, how effective are we? Are we benchmarking ourselves against other teams? How are we performing against our key performance indicators? What do our clients think of us? Getting some feedback from them. And lastly, what recognition do we get? So yes, that's about remuneration, but it's also celebrating successes. It's the pat on the back. It's the time off. It's the passing on great client feedback and so on. So what we're thinking about here is what elements are missing in the team, and then how is that impacting performance? So 4 frameworks. Go back, review them if you need to, but we'll move on. Well, that's the theory. Hopefully it didn't overwhelm you too much. But I guess you may be sitting there thinking, well, so what? What do I do with this? And that's where this week's activity comes in. It's all about applying those frameworks and theories. So I got 5 things for you to do this week. First up, take one of those models that works for you, that's applicable to your team, your environment. If you didn't like any of those, go and find another one. Step number 2 is to conduct an audit. Involve the whole team in this. Look at the different elements of those models and weigh up how your team goes against those elements. Maybe do a SWOT. Is it a strength or a weakness? When you've done that, step 3, identify 3 things that could be improved. You might come up with a list of 20 things that need fixing. Just pick 3. Don't work on too much too early. So identify 3 areas for improvement. Step number 4 is to delegate responsibility out for those improvements. Now, identify a champion within your team who can take ownership for the improvements. And step number 5 is to make sure that there's a plan in place. Get the whole team involved in that again, and certainly the champion or the person who's going to be taking ownership. Put a plan in place, and importantly, make sure you measure and monitor your progress against that plan. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, oh, look, I haven't got time to do all this. Well, have you got time to put up with team inefficiencies, with systems that don't work for you, with stakeholder relationships that aren't working, with confused direction, with training that's not appropriate? I don't think so. So put some effort in now and you will reap the benefits in the medium to long term, and probably in the short term as well. So the things you need to make sure that you create that positive environment within your team. And that's why I'm encouraging you to involve the whole team in this, because you'll get some momentum, and that creates that positive environment and an environment of continuous improvement, which is one of the great things to have in a team. Well, if you've got concerns, comments, questions, by all means, email me, phone me. I love this sort of stuff, so I'm happy to have a chat about it at any time. But that's it from me, Mark Johnson. Until next week, remember, always live to your potential.